There are stories that will stop your heart mid-beat. What you are about to read is one of them. A 17-year-old boy. A death sentence. A courtyard full of people waiting for blood, and something so unexplainable that the man holding the sword stumbled backward and could not move. Stay with me, because this story carries something that could change your life the way it changed his. Drop a comment and tell me where in the world you are watching or reading from today. Let us connect as family and carry one another in prayer. You are not alone. My name is Abdul. I was 17 years old when they first put chains on my wrists. Not because I had stolen anything, not because I had hurt anyone, but because I asked one question nobody in my world was allowed to ask. I had asked whether Jesus could possibly be more than just a prophet. That one question cost me everything. I was born in 2006 in a small dry town called Harad. My father Ibrahim was a man of iron faith. From the time I could sit still, he made sure I memorized verses, kept every fast, and never mixed with Christians. He told me their faith was broken and corrupted, and he said it with such weight that his words settled into me like stones into wet ground. I never questioned it out loud, but deep inside, in the silence of late nights when the house was asleep, there was a hollow place in my chest I could not explain and could not fill. I prayed 5 times daily. I fasted harder than older boys, and still the emptiness stayed, quiet and stubborn, like a fire that gave no warmth. Sometimes I whispered into that darkness, asking whether God truly heard me, whether he knew my name. The darkness never answered. In March of 2023, I first saw him. His name was Elias. He sold secondhand books at the edge of the weekly market. What pulled my attention was not his stall. It was his face. There was a peace resting on that man that did not look earned through wealth or comfort. It looked like it came from somewhere the world could not give or take away. I watched him for 3 weeks. I watched how he responded to rude customers with gentleness. I watched how, when things went wrong, he would pause briefly and then continue as though something invisible had steadied him from the inside. On the 4th week, I walked up and asked him what made him the way he was. He told me it was because of Jesus. He told me that Jesus was not merely a name in an old book, but a living person who had changed everything inside him. He revealed to me that Jesus had carried the weight of every wrong thing he had ever done, so that he no longer had to carry it himself. Because of that, he said, fear had lost its grip on him. I walked away shaking, not from anger, from something that felt like hunger in my bones. Elias gave me a small portion of the Bible wrapped in brown paper. I hid it inside an old school bag nobody ever touched. Every night, when the house was dark and my father's breathing told me he was deeply asleep, I read by the thin light of my phone screen. What I found there was unlike anything I had been told existed. There was a passage that spoke about coming to a certain person when you were tired and heavy with burdens, and that person would give you rest. When I read that, something cracked open inside my chest. I had been tired and heavy my whole life, and nobody had ever offered me rest. Not rules, not rituals, not fear of punishment. I began to simply talk to Jesus. Honest words, like one person speaking to another. Then I made a mistake one Tuesday in September. Exhausted, I forgot to push the bag fully under the mattress. My younger brother Samir came in, saw the brown paper sticking out, and unwrapped it. His face turned the color of ash. He said nothing to me. He walked out. I heard whispering, then silence. Then my father's chair scraping hard across the floor. What followed is difficult to write. My father came through that door and he was not a man anymore. He drove me backward into the mud brick wall so hard it cracked behind my head. Then the beating came. Fists, belt, open palm. He screamed that I had shamed every ancestor going back generations, that I had made him a disgrace before God and every man who respected him. My mother stood in the doorway begging him to stop. My little sister cried without understanding why. I lay curled on the floor, blood on my chin, ribs burning with every breath. But I did not cry. Something inside me had gone very still. A peace had settled over me that made no sense. Not the peace of someone who had given up. The peace of someone who had finally found solid ground. The next morning, my father walked me to the local Islamic Authority Council. He presented his case. He told them his son had renounced Islam, had been reading Christian material, and had been meeting with a Christian man. The council members looked at me the way a person looks at something spoiled. They did not ask many questions. The conclusion was already decided before I sat down. They announced the sentence was death by execution, to be carried out in 3 days. My father nodded. He did not look at me when he nodded. They put me in a cell that same afternoon, barely the size of a small bathroom. Cold stone floor. Walls dark with old stains. No window, only a thin line of light under the door. From nearby cells came the sounds of other men, some moaning, some silent in a way that was heavier than moaning. They brought no food that first night. On the second day, they questioned me for hours and offered to release me if I publicly returned to Islam. I sat quietly. Then I told them I could not say something I did not believe. The man across the table picked up his pen and confirmed the sentence. 3 days. Death. The night before my execution, the darkness had weight. I sat on the cold stone floor, and the full reality pressed down on me. I was 17, and in the morning I was going to be killed because I had chosen to believe that Jesus loved me. I prayed without organized words. I told Jesus I was afraid, that I was alone, that I did not want to die. But that if I had to die, I needed him to show me right then that he had not forgotten me. The cell had no window. There was no reason for light to come in. But light came, steady, warm, and golden. It moved from the far corner toward me until it filled the space around me completely. My back pressed hard against the wall. My breath stopped. And then he was there. I had never seen him before. But I knew immediately. He was clothed in something white, brighter and cleaner than any white I had ever seen. And his eyes, when they found mine, carried something I had no words for. It was as though he had known every single day of my 17 years. Every shameful moment. Every secret. Every night I had cried alone. Every time I had been afraid and pretended otherwise. He knew all of it, and his face toward me held no disgust. Only love. A love so complete that the emptiness I had carried my whole life felt like a distant memory. He knelt beside me on that cold stone floor. He told me. He was with me. He showed me what the cross had truly meant, that he had taken my place and paid a price I could never pay. He revealed to me that whether I walked out of that prison or went to be with him by sunrise, I was his, and nothing could ever change that. Every wall inside me came down. All the years of hollow religion, all the searching, all the emptiness. It collapsed, and something clean and real poured in. I told him I believed. I told him I was his. The moment those words left me, the emptiness was gone. Completely. Finally. Gone. The guards came for me at first light. They bound my wrists and walked me out into the early morning air. A crowd had already gathered in the courtyard. I saw my father near the far wall looking at the ground. I saw my cousin Hassan, who had gone personally to the council to confirm my decision. He stood with arms folded and a face hard as stone. The crowd murmured. I heard the words being passed around: traitor, apostate, disgrace. They pushed me to my knees in the center of the courtyard. I closed my eyes and whispered his name quietly, over and over, like breathing. The council elder began reading my death sentence aloud. He had not finished when the guard positioned behind me suddenly stumbled backward as though something had shoved hard against his chest. His face drained of color. He told the elder, loudly enough for the courtyard to hear, that he could not carry out the order, that he felt a presence near me and his body would not go forward. A second guard stepped up. He walked 3 steps toward me and stopped. He later told others it felt like walking into a solid wall. That he saw something near me. He could not describe and could not approach. The elder called for a third guard. The third guard looked at me kneeling in the dirt and did not leave the wall. The courtyard went completely silent. The elder looked at me, at his guards, at the crowd that had come expecting blood. He announced with a voice that had lost its certainty that the execution was postponed. Something had walked into that courtyard with me that none of them had prepared for. Through a network of believers who risked everything for a boy they had never met, I was moved out of that town within 2 days. I passed from house to house. People opened their doors in the dark of night, fed me, prayed over me with tears, and called me brother. Every time someone called me brother, I wept. After several weeks, I crossed into a region where I could breathe without fear. A pastor named Emmanuel received me and told me that God had written something on my life that the world had tried to erase and failed. In April of 2024, I was baptized in a wide, shallow river on a warm, clear morning. The water was cold. The people around me were singing. When I came up out of that water and opened my eyes to the sky, I understood something completely for the first time. I was not the same person who had gone in. My father has not spoken to me since that courtyard morning. My brother Samir is 17 now, the same age I was when everything happened. I pray for him every day. My cousin Hassan, who sealed my death sentence, I pray for him too, not out of duty, out of genuine desire, because the same Jesus who found me on a cold prison floor can find anyone, anywhere, in any darkness. I'm 20 years old. I'm alive. And I tell this story not because I am brave, but because someone reading these words right now is carrying that same hollow emptiness I carried for 17 years. There is a name for what they are missing. His name is Jesus. He is alive. He comes to cells. He stops swords. He knows your name. Somewhere right now, as you read these words in safety, there is a believer in a cell, in a village, surrounded by people who want them dead, paying a price for the same name you speak freely. Do not forget them. Carry them in prayer. Ask God to protect their bodies, hold their families, and use their suffering to awaken the people standing closest to them. If you feel that hollow place that success, relationships, and religion cannot fill, it is not a flaw in you. It is a space made precisely for one person, and you can reach him right now, exactly where you are, by simply saying from your heart, Jesus, I believe you are the Son of God. I believe you died for my sins and rose again. I am sorry for everything I have done wrong. Please come into my life. Forgive me. Make me new. I give you everything I am. If you meant those words, you are not the same person you were before you said them. Welcome to the family. If this story moves something in you, share it with one person who needs it today. Comment below and tell me where in the world you are. Let us pray for each other across every distance. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story. There are more stories, and every one of them carries the same truth. Jesus is alive, and he is still saving people today.